The people of Israel in Egypt are enslaved, subject to the Pharaoh, and no real hope on the horizon for an escape or a rescue. And then Moses shows up and says, God is setting you free. He goes to the Pharaoh and says, God says, let my people go. The people witness 10 miraculous events that finally convince Pharaoh to set the people free. And out they go, led by a pillar of cloud in the day, a pillar of fire at night. They come to a sea, and Pharaoh has regretted his decision. He sends the army. The pillar stands between the Israelites and the Pharaoh's mighty chariots. The sea parts, the people cross, and then when the Egyptian army comes, they are entirely destroyed. And then, when the people are thirsty, water springs from a rock in the desert, and all drink till they are filled and satisfied. When the people are hungry, manna and quail as a gift from heaven, given every morning, so that the people may eat and live. For years, by this point in the story, by the time we get to the 32nd chapter, the people have journeyed hand in hand with God. They have seen miraculous things with their own eyes. They have been rescued and delivered by the hand of the Almighty. And then they come to the mountain. They've seen the glory of God in the clouds that surround that mountain as Moses goes up to find out about the next stage of life that they will live together, the covenant they will share as a community with God. And while Moses is up in the midst of the contract negotiations, they're like, it's been a minute. I don't think he's coming back. All right, make some new gods. After all they've seen, things don't work on their timeline. They take their rings and whatever other gold they have, and Aaron, who's supposed to be taking care of them, it's like the worst babysitting job in history, supposed to be taking care of these people, makes them a golden calf, and they turn their worship from the God who has delivered them, and they say, well, this is good enough. How do you go from such extraordinary encounters and experiences to give us a golden calf? It's not because the people of Israel were weak or immoral, or more so anyway than any other human beings. It's because they are human beings, and we do that. We often, without a constant reassurance, sort of stray. Not every single moment maybe, but it sure is hardwired into our lives that if God seems somehow absent, we think, well, we turn our attention to whatever we can find at hand. Now, you and I probably don't melt down our rings to make golden statues. But we do turn those things at hand into idols, don't we? We lump all of our hope, all of our aspirations, all of our commitment to politicians, to shopping, to some idealized picture of what life at home looks like. We find all kinds of things that demand our attention, and we willingly give it, especially at moments when it seems that God is absent. We are fickle. Or as God says about us later, stiff-necked. It's hard to turn our attention to the things that really, truly matter, because we are so easily distracted and so easily led astray. And doesn't it seem sometimes, at least in the last 6 or 7 months, haven't you had moments of feeling like God is somehow asleep at the wheel? because I have. There have been many moments where I've wondered if all of this faith that we proclaim, is just us trying to make ourselves feel better. Any God worth his salt shouldn't let innocent people die. But innocent people die all the time, and 1 million have died because of COVID. And so we turn our attention, we place our hope, we commit ourselves to something that is not God. It's human nature. And I know, I can even picture many of the people in my head who right now are jumping ahead to the answer. You know where this is going. But let's not rush past the real experience of lament, the real heartache and distress and hopelessness that many of us are experiencing, at least from time to time. This is real and it is hard. Our political and cultural lives are in complete upheaval. There seems to be less and less common ground from which we and this nation can build a common life. There are distressing stories and images of the way that people are mistreated in our world because of the color of their skin, because of their gender, because of their sexual orientation. And these are not new things that are happening, it's just that now we see them because there are cameras everywhere. Some of the very people who are sworn to protect us often do harm. We cannot see our friends up close and hug them. We've been separated for 7 months. And while so many of us have committed ourselves to trying to take care of ourselves, our family, and one another by wearing masks, by socially distancing, there are others who seem not to care about themselves or others. So let's not rush past the reality of our lives these last 7 months. And if you have experienced moments where you've wondered if God just forgets to care, you're not alone. It's human nature for us to wrestle with those questions. And unfortunately, it is also human nature, as it was for the Israelites, for us to turn our attention elsewhere. There's a new phrase that has sort of gained some currency lately. You've probably seen it, called doom scrolling. I can tell by the look on Kristi's face. She's not heard of doom scrolling, so maybe you haven't either. Let me explain to you. Doom scrolling is when you have your phone or iPad or whatever, and you're on Facebook or Twitter or any of the social messages or just the news, and you just keep reading all of the terrible things that are happening. And if there's something you agree with because they're angry at the right people, you click yes, or you share, yes, and if there's somebody you disagree with, you want to argue with them, and you just get sucked into that life of scrolling and getting angrier and more frustrated and more despondent. It's a real thing that happens for folks. I hope it hasn't happened to you, but it probably has happened to many of us. And that's not by accident. Social media, Facebook and Twitter and all of those other sites, they are designed to keep you connected so they can show you more ads and make more money. And what we have discovered about the human condition, especially in times like this, is we are less likely to stick around for cute pictures of puppies than we are about things that make us angry. And so we get sucked in. And this isn't a new phenomenon. How many times do you know friends or family, and sometimes even yourself, been stuck watching 24-hour news cycles that roll over and over and over again to tell us the same stories, to keep that fire, that anguish, the distress, keep it kindled? It's a hard time right now. And there's a lot of the media that we consume and a lot of the ways that companies are using our distress to make money, which is so gross, but it's how it works. And it's a perfectly tragic exploitation of human nature. So what are we going to do? God relents of his anger against the people. Gives them another opportunity to be faithful. They screw that one up too. They keep screwing up. I mean, it's kind of the story of God's people. That's how we are. But God's faithfulness endures. Even when it seems like God has abandoned us, we know that God is with us. Even when we feel isolated and alone, we can remind ourselves that we are not entirely alone. It's not easy. I really love Paul's letter to the Philippians, this passage that Carol read for us today, because it reminds us in some very practical ways about how it is that we can continue to live and practice our faith, to embody hope. Whatever is good and beautiful and just and honorable and true, whatever is excellent and worthy, pay attention to those things. Pay attention to those things. Find something that feeds your soul. In moments when you're feeling abandoned, when you're wondering whether God is asleep at the wheel or even exists at all. In the moments where you think that maybe this whole thing is going to crash and burn, go out of your way to make time for goodness and beauty. Drink it in. Get outside. Put on your raincoat and get outside. Connect with your friends and your family who love you and support you. Tell jokes. Read great books. Watch great movies. Watch Inside Out. We watched it as a family this week. It's the first time I've seen it. What an amazing movie. You need to watch it. If you have not seen this movie, watch it. If you haven't seen this movie in the last 3 months, watch it again. It's a funny and engaging story, but also one that speaks well to us these days. Read good poetry. Look at beautiful art. Lots of museums these days have put a lot of their collections online for free. Listen to amazing music. Subscribe to Charlie's Patreon. Make good music. Make art. Write poetry. Whatever is good, whatever is true, whatever is beautiful, whatever is worthy, whatever is excellent. Turn your attention to these things. That is not to say, of course, that we ignore the world around us. This is not an ostrich burying their head in the sand, which, by the way, they don't actually do, but whatever. This is not about hiding in our homes and going, la, 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 la. I don't see it, I don't hear it, it's not real. It is about caring for our soul. It is about nurturing our relationship with God so that we can do the work that God calls us to. Laugh. Drink in the beauty around us. Take time to read poetry. Sing. God is with us. We are not alone. Sometimes it seems like God's doing a really terrible job. But here's what I am discovering anew every day and every week. When I attend to prayer, poetry, and beauty and goodness, when I make time for myself and for my family and for my friends, when I make good food for people I love, when people I love make good food for me, I'm suddenly much more attuned to the presence of God in those moments and in other moments. For 7 months now, you have fed our neighbors. God is at work, friends. For years and years now, we have said that this is a congregation that welcomes all of God's children into the community of faith. God is at work, friends. We continue to speak up and speak out for those who have been oppressed and left out. To use the power and privilege we have to work for a more just world. God is at work, friends. Whatever is good and beautiful and true and worthy, whatever is excellent, attend to these things, because God is at work. In your life, in my life, in our community. We are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. And God is ever ready to try again. Ever ready to invite us into deeper connection. Ever ready to move us forward in faith. Ever ready to invite us into partnership for the healing of God's world. We are not alone, friends. And that is the good news this day. Thanks be to God. Amen.